I think the thing that we want to communicate to all the citizens of Los Angeles County is that we're up and operating. We have a very distinct advantage that those innocent victims today in New York and Washington did not have, and that's a stage of preparedness. And with the coordinated effort of the Sheriff's Department and all the other law enforcement and public safety agencies here in the county, we are in stage 1 alert and ready and able. And I think that that's the big issue. Vital county services are up and operating, and I think we want to communicate that in a message that Yvonne mentioned as well, and that's the fact that you know, there's been a lot of accusations early on who may have been responsible, who may not. The one thing that we won't want to do is to become terrorists ourselves and to create innocent American victims just like they did on us today. And so I know Yvonne and I are both glad to be here. We were supposed to have been in an airplane to Washington, D.C. at 8:30 this morning, so we didn't quite make that airplane, but fortunately. And so to everyone, particularly to the victims and their families in New York and Washington, our heartfelt thanks, and to all our public safety personnel, keep up the good work.
As a point of information, Supervisor Antonovich and Supervisor Yaroslavsky are in Washington now. And prior to this tragedy occurring, myself and our 2 board members who are present were on their way to Washington to discuss vital matters relative to the county's fiscal problems and things that go on within our normal course of government. When you examine this type of incident, there's no question that our nation is in mourning at this time. But those of us who are in law enforcement, those of us who are part of the defense mechanisms of our country, are in constant communication with one another. And the important message is this, that we are a united group of people and that we will ferret out whatever facts and evidence are necessary to get to the bottom of this tragedy. I have relationships and communication links with all of the law enforcement executives in our country, particularly in the major counties and the major cities, and we are in a constant networking of expressing information that is important to one another so that we can do a better job together. Our nation will pull together in this circumstance of tragedy. It always has, it always will. And the important thing now is to focus our attention on New York and focus our attention on possible targets such as Los Angeles. That we have done. We're now open for questions.
Can you have a statement for the Spanish-speaking media, please?
We will have a Spanish-speaking person talk to the media in a more extensive fashion. We would have to repeat this entire process at this time. Right now, I want to focus on answering any questions relative to what has been said at this point.
Sheriff, you or the FBI Representative Richard Garcia, do any of you have any preliminary explanations as to why planes going to Los Angeles?
You've been listening to Sheriff Lee Baca. He was live there with a press conference along with Chief Mike Brown with the CHP, Chief Michael Freeman with the LA County Fire Department, Richard Garcia, Special Agent with the FBI, Superintendent Yvonne Brathwaite Burke, and Don Canabi as well. Now, a couple of key points made in that press conference. First of all, Chief Mike Brown said, and he's with the CHP, he said, please refrain from unnecessary travel as to keep things running smoothly. Stay home if you can. Just stay off the roads and stay away from major facilities right now. Most of them are closed anyway. The LA County Fire Department, they have a level of readiness, but they also say, please stay calm. Everybody is ready here in Los Angeles. We're on stage 1 alert. Everything is fine. They say there are no specific threats to Los Angeles. They want to make sure that you know that right now the city of Los Angeles is safe for you to remain calm, but also to try not to travel everywhere. If you don't have to, if it's unnecessary, try to stay home. All right, we have live via the phone a gentleman named Arthur Cass, and Mr. Cass, he was in the World Trade Center building when this devastating tragedy occurred this morning, and he joins us via the telephone to talk to us more about it. Mr. Cass, are you there?
Here, if you can hear me.
Yes, you're a little bit low. We'll try to get our audio person to turn that up just a tad bit. Can you speak again?
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
There you go. I can hear you fine. Thank you very much for joining us. You're in New York right now, obviously.
That's right. We're stuck here.
You're stuck there. You were in the World Trade Center this morning. Do you work there?
No, I don't. I was there for a meeting with a client. I was there on the 39th floor of One World Trade, and I don't know whatever time that first plane hit, we felt it.
Can you just describe what happened from that point on?
Well, I guess it would be comparable to what you guys would call an earthquake.
Right.
The building shook, and there was just we were in an interior conference room, and looking outside the window, we just saw debris pouring down. And at that point, everybody just said, everybody is in unison just said, head for the stairs. And that's what we did. And, you know, fortunately, we were at a floor that wasn't affected at the point. And I will say this, people were fabulous. They were fantastic. They were supportive. They were calm. They were civilized. You know, they knew something major would happen, but they also knew to keep their heads straight.
Now, I also understand that some of the people that you were with and around, they were around when the World Trade Center was bombed back in '93, and I imagine that was a wealth of experience and information when it comes to this emergency procedure kicking into place.
Well, all I was hearing from, you know, total strangers next to me saying, this is the last time I'm ever walking in this building again. I've had it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a common theme from a handful of people that were in that stairwell with me.
Did it ever become clear to you what was going on, that a plane had crashed into your building and in fact this was a terrorist?
So it would take a minimum of experience, but some familiarity with the cockpit of a 757 or a 67 to do what was done today.
I believe so, Peter,
Is that what you're
because
saying, John?
again, you know, that is what I'm saying. I'm saying that any pilot could get into those cockpits with an airplane in flight and physically pull and push and turn and manipulate that airplane. But if you're planning this and you want to make sure that they do it right and they don't mess it up somehow, you're going to want people who have had exposure to that class of airplane. And that's where I think we may end up seeing this investigation go.
And I actually think, if I recall correctly, that many hours ago you raised the possibility that someone who did this had some time in a simulator.
There is a high likelihood that if you were going to plan this again over a period of time, a year or two, that you could, if you were the planning organization, find a way to get your pilots that you wanted trained into a simulator someplace in the world. There are a lot of 757 and 767 training, or a lot of it available. And, you know, our people train air crews from all over the world, our people meaning in the United States. We wouldn't necessarily have any clue of what was in their hearts or what they were planning to do if they came in the door from a legitimate carrier or even a private operator of a 757, because there are some private ones out there.
We know as a nation, as we said, our thoughts and prayers are with those families and those injured and those who are the casualties of today's attack.
God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Well, I do not know whether that was a spontaneous gesture, but whether it was or was not. To see members of the House and the Senate, men and women, hugging each other in the face of this attack on the country, standing together on the steps of the Capitol on the evening of the 11th day of the month, 9th month of the year, singing God Bless America, surely reflects some heartfelt attempt by the members of the Congress to say to the world that this is a unified nation in the face of tragedy, as it has, for the most part, always been thus.
Read all about it.
There is, rippling across this country,
Suicide bombers, suicide bombers.
great fear tonight. This attack was on every American.
I can't believe it. And it's so sad that it's come to this.
The first thing I thought of this morning when I saw that was Hiroshima, Pearl Harbor, all over again. The horror of it. And thinking that we're headed for World War III.
I want to go home to my family right now. That's what I want to do, get close to my kids.
We were seeing things we have never seen before, not just on our TV sets, but signs all around that this is as serious as it gets. At the airports is where it was most obvious, the national confusion.
I'm really scared. I feel helpless.
paralysis.
All the lines on the cell phones are all busy.
Planes making their way to the first airport in sight. Unloaded passengers stunned to find themselves in places they had no plans to be, unsure what to do.
I'm just totally shook up right now because we were in the air when it happened. We're not told anything about it.
They said good luck, sleep in the airport.
And in city after city, anxious officials evacuated one building after another.
Our boss just finally came and told us, just go ahead and leave.
Not because of actual threats, but because no one knew what might be next.
There is a war here now.
We are a nation now on high alert, not just militarily, but psychologically, shaken on every level.
Just waiting.
For what?
To see if anything else is going to happen. To see if we're going to be attacked here in Atlanta.
It's a very strange feeling to be so threatened.
The uncertainty set in motion a wave of shutting down across the nation. Not just the obvious government buildings, but malls in Georgia and theme parks in Florida.
Due to unforeseen circumstances, the Magic Kingdom is now closing.
And schools everywhere.
Our military at home and around the world.
And in those classrooms still in session, you could hear the anxiety of the youngest generations, for whom this kind of attack had been limited to their history lessons until today.
They hit the Pentagon. It's a slap in the face. It's the nerve center of our military, and they hit the Pentagon? What is that?
I always thought America was like my superhero, like nothing could harm America. I mean, America is everyone's defendant.
This is an attack on our generation. It is an attack on our culture, our system, our values, what we do.
There is a growing sense tonight that what we do now will truly define us as a nation.
I'd hate to see panic, because then whoever did this will win, and we can't let them win.
We are Americans, and I'm glad I am an American. We need, we just need to come together, and I think we will.
It will take that and much more in the coming days to see the nation, the entire nation, through this.
Head that way.
Erin Hayes, ABC News, Atlanta.
Peter, I don't know how much you can see down here, but we have heavy mobilization. We have cranes coming in. We have bulldozers, generators, lights coming in because, of course, city power is out. I'm told they're coming in part to uncover the rubble from a subway station that partially collapsed. Also, they're going to take a look at the rubble closer up. If you can move the camera in, you can see the gray haze, which is the smoke from what is still burning. Not only the rubble of the two tall towers this morning that were blasted, but also that third building, the 47-story Tishman building, which had been evacuated. And then we're told that the Marriott Hotel is still on fire, but firefighters have given up on that right now. So right now, building's still on fire, everybody evacuated out there. I'm going to bring in Don Baylor once more for a couple of footnotes of this scene, Peter, because he's been walking the streets all day. Don, you saw a jet engine. You saw a turbine engine.
Yeah, it was obviously an engine from a large jet that is over on the left-hand side about 2 blocks down this way. It landed on what I think was a phone booth, but it was charred. Obviously, the insides, it did not have the outer shell anymore, but it looked like the inner workings of a jet engine.
And again, we're talking blocks and blocks away, Peter, so imagine the trajectory of that engine's flight. Another thing you told me, which has such a poignancy to it, you said when you walked the scene up at the Trade Center devastation, that you were knee-deep in a carpet of financial documents.
Right, well, we were talking about the implications of this on world markets, this being probably the center of the world of finance, and nowhere was that more dramatically demonstrated than what were millions and millions of documents. I looked at financial documents, stock certificates, employment records, just lying around. Many of them were charred. It's obvious. And when you saw the explosion, you saw a cascade of paper come off these buildings, and that's what it was.
We're told it's as far away as 3 miles, Peter. And I should just say that every time you stop here, someone comes up from the EMS or from the firefighters and the police just to tell you the names of people they know who went in before them and they're not sure came out.
Already, we have these images that no one can ever forget. A tough guy mayor pained by what he saw.
Right now? The situation is that 2 airplanes have attacked apparently. Can't go to City Hall. Why? They should not go to City Hall. All right, well then let's go north then.
The dust, everywhere the dust.